Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of August 22nd. I'm Ryan Miller, and once, Matt Amber.
But now, not.
And forever.
Oh, and forever. You're tapping your ear like come in.
Yeah, sorry,
come in, sir.
I'm trying to turn you up here. Yeah.
Come in.
Say again, am I a Secret Service
agent?
On Book Club for Movies, where we've brought you such things as Octoberween, possibly Noirvember, and July Kwando. Stay tuned for movie 3 and 4 of Awwwgust.
It's my favorite one so far.
Where we've done so far.
The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Gosh, the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Yes, I like how I forget immediately. Don't forget that movie. I will always remember that movie. Go listen to the show, which you may have already blowing up the charts, the YouTube charts.
Crazy.
That show.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're a listener from YouTube, what was it about that show that brought you to it? Why is it getting the numbers? What has the algo done for us that we just don't understand this time?
Do you want us to talk more about romance? Is August?
Could that possibly be it?
Is it because we chose a very, it's not even that obscure, but I guess at this point, maybe it is an obscure French film? I don't know.
Well, I think that's why, because our Blonde Fury episode also pulling in more above average numbers. And I think that might certainly be wise, because there's just not a whole lot out there about it. Not a whole lot of people talking about it. So
I guess
I don't know.
Maybe we should do that. Focus on good movies that nobody talks about. Like Lady Reporter, Female Reporter.
Doesn't feel right.
Oh, okay.
Or it does, because this week we're doing possibly a good movie. Think about it. The one I chose for August, which, by the way, Matt's choosing one. He chose The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I'm choosing one. I chose this week's movie once. Our wives are choosing one. I don't know which wife we're going to go with.
I think Candy, because Candy is definitely set, and I've got to still harangue Beth into finalizing a decision that is acceptable. Because she was away going for way off board things. Like, we can't do Hellraiser. That's not okay, honey.
She would bring about Octoberween early.
To be fair, the story originally was The Hellbound Heart, so it does work. All I'm saying. But what?
I was unaware we were supposed to guide, because I gave my wife full... Actually, I take that back, because my wife's first idea was one that I was like, I don't think... We'll get there. Stay tuned until the end of the show. Matt, this week for the movie Once, do you have a synopsis?
I do, and this may be my favorite one. I'm going to be honest with you, because... Wow, what am I doing here with this movie? Once, coming at you, an hour and 26 minutes, written and directed by John Carney, starring Glenn Hansard and Markita Irglova. Here's your book club for movie synopsis for Once. A week in the life and love of a busker and a flower seller as they create music which inspires.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have so much on this thing.
Okay.
And I'm hoping you do too.
First, we're going to stop. I am going to, we're going to do a little Uno reverse on you, because do this to me every time. You brought this movie to me.
It's called a format.
Yeah. You know what? And I'm the Matt here. It's for me.
Oh, you're right. I walked right into that.
I'm taking it back. I'm owning this. You ask this question of me every time I bring a movie to the table. I'm going to bring it to you. How did you come to this movie? Like, I'm very curious where, not because this is out of line for anything. Absolutely not. You and I have talked about movies for so long in our lives together that I am very aware that your taste is, it's breathtakingly large. You contain multitudes when it comes to film.
This is bizarre, because I feel like our strange dynamic has always been, I went to film school, you worked at Blockbuster, or was it actually, it was actual Blockbuster, right?
It was, yes.
Okay, right.
That was one of the video stores.
And yet your depth of knowledge has, I feel like, always outpaced my own. So it's strange to hear you say that, or I also feel like rare for me to bring a movie to the table, even that you haven't heard of in some regard. Had you heard about this movie before I mentioned it?
Nope.
Okay. See, this might actually be a first, honestly.
Possibly. I'm just very aware of things, you know.
You are
I
exceptionally.
watched
Yeah, no.
a lot. Like I had
have.
one of the main differences that does make some of this back and forth interesting is totally how we grew up. Like I grew up with my dad watching movies. Like that was a huge part of our relationship constantly. And yeah, I mean,
and early on too,
right.
like you have childhood stories of this,
right? And and you had a different experience with movies. Like it just wasn't as important, I guess, in your family like that. Like
family, yes, like that.
In the familial sense, until you took it upon yourself to branch out into the wonderful world.
The short of it is,
school.
my best friend worked at the local movie theater, and I wanted to work with him so badly that I hung out at the movie theater, sweeping floors, doing literal work, thinking that was the way to get hired. But it was more of a family affair there.
Sure.
And my friend's mom worked there, so he got the job. So I was never going to get the job, but since he also got unlimited free movies, we just went to the movies all the time. So that's where it started for me, certainly outside the home and much later than you. But why don't we save that? That almost feels like an entire show, our history with film.
Yeah,
so.
we could talk about that.
Also, nothing to do with this movie in particular, although when I did end up going to film school, I went in Salt Lake City, which was, a little bit of a hotbed. Sundance takes place in Park City up the road.
I've heard.
Yeah.
The wife has spent some time there.
And that's where I ran into this movie. It must have been actually literally on my way out. I graduated. I didn't even walk. Like I didn't walk in like the cap and gown sense. I ran in like the moved out of Salt Lake as quickly as I could. But must have caught the movie because it was at Sundance that year that I graduated. So that was how I came to hear about, see, and love this movie.
Sure. All right.
And you're, I also hope, going to love the history behind this thing. I didn't know a lot about it, or I had forgotten since. It's such, and I don't know if it has to do with kind of the romantic nature of it, but a lot of the story behind Glenn Hansard and Marquette Derglova and even John Carney is just such a serendipitous thing, which I guess everything is to some extent, but
not like this. This is
maybe, so I don't know.
I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to say this at the top of this episode. The movie very much so, and I actually said this to you last night. I had never heard of it. I'd never seen it. I didn't know anything about it. So I went in completely blind, walked out of the movie. And by that, I mean, turned off the movie, whatever. The movie
I went out the front door. Where are you going, Matt? Well, we're done with the movie.
The movie's over. I got to go. This is what you do when a movie's over. You leave.
I feel like we've reached an ending of sorts. I will speak with you later.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Take a walk around the block and then I'm back. But as soon as the movie ended, the first thing that crossed my mind was, this is a very similar. It reminded me in the best sense of Before Sunrise. And
yes, which I actually thought about until you mentioned it last night. Yeah.
Admittedly, kind of like got excited in that moment where I went, oh man, I would love to see Carney get back together with them in 10 years with the same characters and just what happened. Does now here's one of the things about this movie when we talk about this, by the way, the characters don't actually have names. They're referred to in the credits as guy and girl. That's it. So when we refer to them by their real names of Glenn and Marquette, that's just what their names are.
You're right. Another excuse wherein what we usually do actually works. But I was totally interested. Like, what happens? Does he stay? And of course, we're going to spoil this movie. But yes,
does the ending stick? Is it? Do they both have that ending? Do they come back together? Does music bring them back together for some reason? Because he never succeeded further without, like, that first record was amazing because she was part of it, or. Like there's so many questions.
Absolutely. And coming at it from the direction of the Sunrise trilogy, I think is brilliant because after viewing the first Sunrise movie, I would have said, please, no more sequels. We're good. This was fantastic. And yet they absolutely pull it off. I'm in the same spot with this movie. Like, please, no more. We're cool. Like, where this movie ends is so beautifully perfect. Like it doesn't need more. But yeah, I mean, I guess if they figured it out a la Sunrise, wouldn't complain, I'm sure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But it's the chemistry between Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in the Sunrise series. And on top of that, the chemistry between them and Linklater behind the camera.
Sure.
Like all of that has to come together for those movies to succeed as strongly and as powerfully as they do. And this is a case where the same thing. I think that the three of them, Carney, Irglova, and Glenn, whatever his name is, I can't remember.
Hansard, yeah, it's his last name that always gets me. I could look it up, and I've
Yes.
watched YouTube
Hansard.
videos of him, but yeah, Hansard or Hansard.
Seeing Glenn Hansard, Marquita Irglova, and John Carney together, that trio works. Like there's just there's a simplicity to the camera, to the way the language of this film is simple and it's easy to digest, and it's because of that relationship, I think, like and how much the little things that may take, you know, actors 100 million years to learn how to properly do just come naturally to these two because of their prior relationship. And it's something that just like that stuff, that the little things that make relationships work in real life and that make them so dynamic and interesting on screen is done here with, like, it does not feel like any acting is happening. It just feels like in every respect, this movie feels in the same way Sunrise does, that we are peeking in on this life that we should not be able to see all this, right? Like it's a weird, like, not in a bad way, because it's not perverse, but it's that, like, this is the beautiful story of love gone awry, love coming together, love building something, and something building love. And it's done just so romantically and beautifully. And again, it's that trio, right? Like they are the three people that are most involved here. And without that relationship between the three of them, I don't think this movie is as successful. But I have a hard time seeing that relationship, like it seems like something 10 years from now, 20 years, whatever, they could come back and just be like, hey, how's it going? Pop the camera up and go.
I think we'll get there. Actually, I do have something now that I think about it, that I think we might get we might at least get a double feature maybe here towards the end.
All right.
But I also feel like you're setting me up pretty perfectly to tell you how this film did in fact come together.
Please, I'm so curious.
I hope you love this, because I found it fascinating. The stuff I forgot and the stuff that I didn't know, I found some things out. Glenn Hansard, at 13 years old, quit school to begin busking in Dublin. I would imagine even on Grafton Street, which it features prominently in the film. It's one of those shopping centers in Dublin you've probably seen, I guess one of two, but it also kind of looks like Little Ireland. Like it's got to be just so old that that's what the buildings,
Sure.
It's not an actual street, like there's no cars, it's all foot traffic now, but
Right.
the buildings are kind of small and it looks like this fun little shopping area. He says he came from a home wherein the holy trinity of Leonard Cohen, Van Morrison, and Bob Dylan at the top was king.
Yeah.
He forms a band called The Frames in 1990. It's called that because his house that he was living in, I think still his parents' house, was littered with bicycle frames. So he didn't work at a vacuum shop like he does in this movie. He worked at a bicycle shop, and those pieces just kind of littered his life, and that's where he came up with the title for the band. And that band, The Frames, becomes kind of a rock and roll incubator in the Irish rock and roll scene.
Okay, are they one of the? Does this band become one of those things where like people cycle in and out?
Yes,
where like
very much so.
And it's like, oh, here's the major guitar player from this band and the singer from this and that.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, it didn't start out like that. Like it's not like because right now Hansard is performing with one of those bands with Eddie Vedder.
Right,
That very much has a bunch of names. It wasn't that. It was like early on. It was just a band.
Before they're popular.
There are some core members, but certainly some big names from the Irish music scene passed through the Frames at some point.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
1 year later, in 1991, he ends up in a movie called The Commitments. Have you ever seen that?
Phenomenal movie. Love The Commitments.
I haven't, but the moment I saw it, I was like, I bet Matt has seen and loves this movie.
That movie is phenomenal. Oh, dude, just Google or YouTube The Commitments. The first song that shows up there, dude, play it and just be like, yep, you're going to be...
Okay.
It's unreal. Movie is great.
It's about an Irish band that sets out to cover soul music, right? And it's directed by Alan Parker, who did Fame, Pink Floyd, The Wall, later Evita. And apparently the casting directors went out to Dublin, went to all the clubs, checked out all the buskers, and found Hansard. And he ended up doing the part of Outspan Foster. Is that how you say that?
I don't remember, dude.
All right, sorry.
don't you put that on me.
I just didn't want to pass up a moment to say somebody's name wrong for this.
No, you did. I'm sure.
He would later go on to say that he thought that taking that role distracted from his music career, which is kind of funny. But in that same year, 1991, the Frames hired a bassist. One of those people that passed through that band was John Carney. So
all right,
he stuck around for like 3 years. He directed a lot of their music videos. And eventually left to concentrate more on filmmaking. Meanwhile,
real quick, what were the Frames? Were they a punk band? Were they what were they?
I have
any idea?
They have 6 or 7 studio albums. They're still together. They haven't at any point been like we're breaking up or taking some time off. It's just something that always exists that Hansard always goes back to in some respect.
So he's in the band, he's in every iteration.
He's frontman. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there's like 2 others that are, one of which I won't even try to pronounce, but the other I will just not look up. So
good.
Either way, I'm going to check them out. I am interested because it does seem
giving everybody their due here on Book Club for Movies.
In true fashion, yes. No.
But to be fair, this is about movies, not music, so we don't care about bands. We're not band club for books or movie club for bands or whatever it's called.
Meanwhile,
okay, yes,
because Miss Marketa Irglova is quite young. She's, I think, even still now, just 33 or something like that. She began playing piano at 7, guitar at 8. So a little slow on the guitar there. I guess it took her a while. I don't know what the issue was.
Yeah, you know what? That's those lazy kids, back then.
But in 2001, her father organizes a music festival in the Czech Republic, where she is from, like she is in the movie, and books the Frames. So Hansard shows up with his band, makes friends, and becomes kind of a mentor for Irglova as she too develops her own career, develops her own sound and music career. And then eventually they do form their own thing called Swell Season, or the Swell Season, actually, I think it might be. And they are approached by somebody to write music for a movie. It's not John Carney yet. It's Jan Hurbiek, probably, who asks them to,
sounds right.
Who asks them to write songs for his movie Beauty in Trouble. I've never seen, but
don't know.
Essentially elicits this self-titled album from them in the process. And Falling Slowly, Sleeping, and Lies show up in that movie, Beauty in Trouble. Carney, same year, approaches Hansard and is like, hey, tell me all your busking stories. I want to make a movie with Cillian Murphy, who he's already done some stuff with. Killian, sorry, you're right. And Kieran, and other Irish names that I'll get wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Killian might be wrong too. I don't know.
I actually didn't know he was a musician as well, and darn near signed a 5-album deal with Acid Jazz Records before turning that down and turning to acting. Yeah, I guess he was on his way. Yeah.
Insane, that guy.
So yeah, that was Carney's idea. And I think Carney had already worked with Murphy in a couple things already. So he goes to Hansard. He asks for his busking stories. And upon also casting or thinking of casting Irglova, Murphy pulls out because he's like, Irglova's a non-actor. He's like, I'm not sure about this. And also once he starts to get some of the music from Hansard, because again, the album's already been done. That self-titled 12th season album is out. He has concerns about some of the octaves that Hansard puts out.
Dude, yeah, I have concerns about some of them too.
Right? So he pulls out, and unfortunately with him, all the money leaves. So Carney is left with this idea with some of these stories from Hansard and no money to put this thing together. So he basically turns to Hansard and is like, well, you're it. Will you do this? And Hansard says, okay, I'll do it, but we need to scale it down. He's like, I'm not going to do a big, budget or however that go, like a huge movie where I'm the lead. He's not super confident with his acting ability. Again, I haven't seen The Commitments. I don't know what kind of a performance he puts in there, but
I don't remember him. Like, I didn't recognize him, but that doesn't mean anything.
Very young. Yeah, I went back to look because I wanted to see him in that movie, but you'll recognize him. It's just that, yeah, he's got a different hairdo. He's very young, etc. So Carney says, yes, okay, we'll do this on a shoestring. And I think by the end, it was like 112,000 euros was all they ended up spending.
I wanted to talk about that, in fact, at some point, too.
This is a movie where I'll tell you that, and you'll say, yeah. Like, you're not going to be like, I can't believe they did it for that much. Like, you might say, I can't believe they spent that much, even, like...
The only reason I wouldn't have that particular reaction is because I just know how much all the other crap that goes along with it. Because right. I have no doubt that the filming did not cost $100,000.
No.
Filming was probably 25 grand at most.
Carney did not even take a salary. He's like, I'll wait until the movie does something. And if it does well, like nobody got paid very much at all, but he did promise Hansard and Irglova that if it did well, he would pay them back, essentially. But yes, they did it with a skeleton crew. 17-day shoot with 2 handy cams, which again, if you see this, you'll believe that. Like, I'm pretty sure at some point we're dealing with 30 frames interlaced, baby. Like you'll notice it most in the color. Like the color is very video color. It's very handy cam color. Like it's nothing necessarily to speak about. Very beautiful still, and honestly, you're not there for that, but.
No, but you know what? I think it works because
it does. That's it.
It going back to what I had said earlier, it even on the shoestring budget, even with that kind of maybe the lesser quote unquote quality. Number one, it doesn't stand out in a way from other movies in a negative light. Yeah, it doesn't stand out and make it like the movie is a movie. It's a film. You're not going to watch this and go, this looks like, I'm watching a 1986 BBC television show, right? It's not that. But speaking to that thing I said earlier, where it almost feels like you're peeking in on something that you shouldn't be. And there's a moment, it's actually right at the very beginning where I got that feeling and it never left me, but it's the feeling of being the fly on the wall, but only for like pretty much the good stuff, not a ton of the negativity. There's some bad, there's unfortunate. Yes. But this is at the end of this, it's being a fly on the wall, these perfect little moments in a person's week over their life as everything is kind of tossed into the air. Right. And they're, both of them are like, well, okay, let's see what happens.
I mean, I don't even get the feeling that they're necessarily leaving out the bad stuff. It sounds
no.
It feels to me. Yeah, I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm just like flowing here with the thought that it very much feels like that early relationship thing. Like he screws up once. It's to get into the movie a little bit. Once they first meet and they get back to his place, at some point he's like, "You want to spend the night?" She's like, "What?" Completely misreading the situation. Like that's not what's going on here. And she gets mad and leaves. That's like the big mistake. Other than that, it's smooth sailing because they've just met. They're getting to know each other. It's all of the good stuff.
It's very much the honeymoon period.
Yes. All of the good stuff. But yes, to finish up, it's all naturally lit. They did everything at friends' houses, not a single permit for anything. They did shoot on the street. They used long lenses.
That was my other question.
Yeah. Nobody knew what they were doing. All those people, I'm guessing, never signed a release. But Irish seem like pretty understanding folk. I bet they'd.
If not, they'll just get drunk and beat you with potatoes. Stereotypes.
That party scene is literally in Hansard's flat, and that is his mom singing that cute little solo there for a bit.
That's awesome. I actually loved that. And when that party scene, so this moment in the party scene, okay, I want to talk about this real quick.
Yeah, no, go.
So the party scene, again, and so this movie, the movie starts off with him playing music out every day, basically by himself. The girl, for lack of a better term, in the film, because she doesn't have a name.
She's called girl in the movie. We're not being that dismissive,
right? They start talking. They become friends. They find out. He finds out that she can play music. They write some music together, and it's beautiful and all that stuff. And he is trying to. There's some chemistry. There's a relationship that could be forming, but maybe it's not the loving. We don't know. It's up
That's
there.
That's true.
Right?
We don't know either. Obviously, yeah. What we're building towards here,
right? And at one point he says, "Hey, come to this party with me at a friend's house," and they go to the house. And all I could think in this moment was, dude, why do we not have parties like this in America? And I'm serious, because it's just like it is. There's this bonding thing, but they're all sitting around and everybody's silent while each person has to sing a song or sing a little bit of a something. And we get a couple of little snippets from 3 or 4 people before they go into the, all right, now, Hansard's going to play the band, play some music. They're going to play something big, and everybody's.
But it's not like they're standing up on a stage or anything. Still, it's just him and some more of his buddies are doing their part now.
Yeah, it's all in a little flat, and it's a scene that will stick in my head probably for a very long time, because it is idyllic in a sense for me. Like that's the kind of friendship and relationships that I want to have. I want to sit around, be drinking with friends, and no, you can't leave. You got to sing. Doesn't matter if you're bad at it. That is not the point. It's just about it's about almost being comfortable with all these people that you're just going to belt it out and, all right, let's do it. And everybody at the end of it's going to be just thrilled that you did. It's not about making fun. It's about the companionship. It's about being together. It's that. And I loved it. That sequence, beautifully filmed, and the way she is integrated, and there's not a ton with them in the moment. It's actually a short moment that kind of just is more of a I think it was a necessary scene, but it's a sequence that doesn't make them step forward necessarily in anything. It's just more of like, here's the rest of the night for him. But the way she is like seamlessly integrated into the group, into the family of being told, well, you got to sing, and like it's just it was just a beautiful moment. I really loved it. I really loved that.
Every single scene in this movie is, oh, I want that.
Yes, also that. She's sitting there playing the piano and like, I want to play the piano.
Yeah, okay. We're in the movie. You mentioned some of this already. How quickly were you in the movie actually? Like what?
Okay, so the opening scene is him playing in the number one, the spot they chose, perfect. Just because
that's Grafton, yeah.
Because but it's the spot on Grafton they chose because of the framing. So he is framed in like at part of it, at least, like right with just an alley behind him. Like which is kind of setting us up to think, okay, this guy's busking at night.
Okay, you're moving tonight, yeah, because the very first scene is him busking during the day, and then you're like, oh, this is fun, but this is kind of where I was thinking you might be in, and rewatching it even again, I was like, man, I'm just in immediately, because cut to him busking at night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is he doing this at night? And they do talk about it. He talks about how he's like, I can't do my own songs during the day, so because they want to hear all the doesn't make the money.
And I love
so
that.
he does them at night. But again, why do it at night? Like he can't be making a bunch of money. He's like, oh, well, then I can play my own songs. Not to make money though, right? Like
doesn't
matter.
Right
then I'm in.
It's that, it's totally that. It was so for me, it's so you go through this moment, and it might actually be the next night that he's playing, but there's a shot where, very handheld, obviously, he's playing a song by himself in front of this alleyway. and he's flanked by two buildings, and the alleyway is very narrow, and he's playing this great song, and as he's playing it, the camera is like it's a far shot, and then it like walks up to him, and that was the moment where I was like, this movie is, I'm in. This is everything I want this movie to be already. And it's very soon. It's within the first 10 minutes of the movie.
It's the first 5 maybe. Yeah. It's the very next, it's the second scene. Technically,
and that was the scene, like the scene with the heroin addict stealing the money and then him just giving him the money. Like, not only was it funny, but it's also
it's
like
just fun. Yeah.
It's also, there's a little relatability there. Like, I've seen that, I've seen it happen.
Also, who his character is at that point. You also know, I feel like a little bit about the community. Like, it seems just perfectly Irish, like, but the ending of that second shot that you're talking about, where the camera moves closer, it pulls back out. Mm-hmm. And there's Irglova standing right there. So essentially, we've just POV. We were Irglova, like stepping into his space, and
I loved it. It was a glory, not only because it was the perfect song for that also, shot. Yeah. The perfect song out of all the songs that are in the movie. Which by the way, as soon as the movie was over, the first thing I did was I bought the soundtrack. And I actually sent the picture to Ryan to, I was like spoiler-free review, bought the soundtrack. but the soundtrack is, it's rife with great songs.
Yeah. And so some of those, I forgot to follow up. Some of those are written for the movie. The only ones that were on that Swell Season self-titled album were Lies, Once Your Mind's Made Up, Leave, and of course Falling Slowly. But those are just straight up from that self-titled album. They came out before, or even in another movie before.
Right.
But yeah, there's a few originals for once that I see on that soundtrack.
But that the song they chose that was chosen for it is perfect. The performance that he gives in that song, all of his performances are great. All of the performances they do are great. It is one of the strengths of the movie where at no point, which I did really like also, at no point is there really am I really a good musician? Am I really this? He's always like, whatever. And she is always his biggest champion. But there's never that like weird downturn where he's like, well, I can't play. I can't do this. Like we never get the moment of inside Llewyn Davis where he goes to the club that he's been trying to play at forever. He plays his song and F. Murray Abraham is like,
Yeah. Nothing like that garbage movie. This thing is
the Coen brothers. What do they know about music?
No, I see what you're saying, and I'm so glad that it doesn't focus on that at all.
Right,
because that's not where the heart of this movie is. It's not even where, like, there's a moment in the middle where I'm like, this is definitely more his story than it is her story, because they do focus a little bit on that, and it is his band, in the film. So there is that. So I was kind of sensitive. I was like, do we really get enough Irglova? Like, do we get enough of her and what she's going through? And I think no, but by a sliver maybe, and she's a non-actor. Like she'll tell you, she's the first one to tell you. And not that Hansard's like amazing, although he is a performer, and I certainly think you could see that when he's performing. Like, you're right. Yes. When he's singing the songs, there's no difference. Like, he is giving a perfect performance.
Yeah, you can absolutely tell that dude is going. Like, that guy is playing the song. Yeah. He ain't screwing around.
It's a little uneven when maybe it comes to that, but not by much really at all. Like, and if you feel that way in the middle of the movie, it fixes itself. It writes itself to the point where at the end, you really don't. I don't have any complaints, but I can see,
Sure. But I would say on the same token, I think you're right. I think that this is definitely his story. It starts with him. It ends with him, essentially. But she is the like, to a point. Actually, I guess the way I looked at it is they're each other's muses, but his muse, like, is it's his story about his particular struggle with love and music and what he wants.
Which is obviously fine, and Carney's going to have a better handle on that than the other way around. Also, it works because she's further along in her character.
Yes.
Like Hansard very much is figuring himself out more. She's the one that's like, I gotta go now. Like she knows what she wants when she wants it. Like, yeah, she's going through some pain when it comes to her husband who she's separated from and stuff like that. But she very much, like, she does the negotiation at the music studio.
Love that part.
Like she's very much so lived a life before Hansard, like.
Yeah. And so in that respect it works, but also going back to what I was saying at the beginning, I want to know, what did her self-assuredness, like, where did that take her and her husband and her daughter and her mother? Where are they now? Where is the Glenn character that didn't have that self-assuredness, but was pretty sure that after he recorded that record that it was pretty good? Which I want to talk about that now. So the
Sure,
movie, the ultimate part of this movie, I think, is the third act where we're built up throughout the film to him making music. He meets Erglova, and then they make music, and then he realizes, I gotta record this, and I want to do it with her because she's playing this stuff, and I want to just get this down. And she helped. Like, so he goes and reaches out to some friends that are also buskers that are Thin Lizzy cover band. That's all they play. Lizzy, truly weird.
Why not? Yeah.
Hilarious.
Maybe the one of the biggest things to come out of Dublin.
Yes, it's them or you too. Friggin' Bono.
Me also.
By the way,
you.
How disappointing is it to find out that Bono not only is not his actual name, but is not even related to anything in his name.
Not as disappointed as it is to find out the same thing about The Edge.
That's his actual name, though. His name is Edge McGill.
That's why it's disappointing. Edge McGill.
So,
good gosh.
They scrape up the money. They get the money, which I also love that too. We know that they don't have money. They're not, neither of them are well off. I am so glad we didn't spend half this movie or 30 minutes or any amount of time with the like montage of them trying to get the money. It's just, we made the deal. We'll get it. They get the money.
It's so smart about what's important, man. That is the strength of this film, is it knows exactly what you want to see, what you want to keep seeing, what's important, like what makes,
and so low key, like, my favorite character in the movie ends up actually being the engineer, the sound engineer, because so the guy is brought in.
He might have a name actually.
And sound engineer. I just said it. Everybody is named whatever they do in the movie except for Timmy the drummer.
Because he introduces him. He's like, hey, this is Eamon, I think.
Sure.
Anyway.
Whatever. So
Glad
I love this because the movie, like, it sets this up. We have heard him play. We know that him walking into the studio after we've seen them play together, we've seen them rehearsing. He's not going to walk into this studio and suddenly just not be able to play. That's not going to happen. That is not even a thing in the cards. I think in this movie, there's no point where anything negative happening in the studio crosses my mind. So what does the sound engineer do? He's like, have you guys ever recorded? And they're like, no. He's great. So he's thinking this is going to be a bunch of idiots that have never played and they don't deserve to be in there. I love that setup because I love that we know as the audience going, oh, you're going to be in for a treat. And that's what it is. And I love that.
Cute little turnaround as he's like listening to the music. He's like, wait a minute.
He's sitting there. I love that he's sitting there reading a magazine. They get themselves set up. He goes, all right, go ahead. He sets the click track. They go. And as the song is going on, he's still reading the magazine. It gets a little further on. He starts kind of bobbing his head. It gets further on. He finally puts the magazine down and looks at the board and starts twiddling with knobs. And then we get this great montage of music, of them communicating as a band, of him talking with the sound engineer. And and all the way going through to I love the car test. Like that's just, it's such a phenomenal thing where there, we got to do the car test. What's the car test?
We've heard it on these great studio speakers this whole time.
Let's listen to it on garbage in my car. They get into his car. and it's another just great sequence where the music, it's a song we have literally just heard.
Yeah.
And yet playing it again.
It's the studio recording version of it. Like we kind of heard the live-ish version, which I'm guessing most of what you get in this movie is the location audio stuff.
I would hope so. But then you hear the studio version and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. This works. And because of the visuals you're getting where they're driving around, they're like interacting with each other. They're like smiling. They're really happy. Like everybody in the car is happy. They stop at the beach. They're throwing frisbees around and stuff. It's a great feel-good moment for music that is excellent, that is so well earned by these characters. And when that sound engineer gets into it, that's I think maybe the moment where I went, okay, I'm just going to buy this stupid record. Like,
I'm glad you mentioned that scene too, because actually, if there is one split second in the movie where I'm like, this might not be necessary, it's the car scene, because it is the song we just heard. It's a victory lap of a scene, because it doesn't really progress the story. It is just a fun feel good thing. It's not like their relationship's progressing anymore in the moment. Like it is both unnecessary and I wouldn't cut a second of it. Like
agreed.
While we're on music, let's go back, because the title track, had you heard Falling Slowly before?
Nope.
Okay, interesting. It's the one, it won the Oscar. It's again, if you've heard anything, I think, from this, it's probably that song. That song drops 16 minutes into the film. It's not in the third act. It's not even, at the wherever you'd put it in the second act. It's 16 minutes into the first act. And it never struck me, because he is coming from a relationship where he's broken up. He's left the girl behind. She has also left her husband behind. They broke up. It wasn't working. And he starts singing this song with her. They go to a nearby music store where the guy just lets her play the piano in there, because she doesn't have a piano, should mention. And she tries to get him to play a song. He's like, okay, I'll play this song. It's kind of unfinished. Do you think you could follow along? He's like, okay. And they play it. And
perfectly, by the way, nonsense.
Well,
no,
okay, number one, I don't think so.
No, not at all. It's
I don't know if you're joking, but
no,
I think the way it's done, I'm like, okay, yeah, somebody with musical knowledge. Okay, he puts the lyrics in front of her too. Keep that in mind. That's the one thing that you're like, okay, they both know
the hardest thing for any musician in that case is just going to be remembering the chords and remembering where they're going. But once it very doable.
And he explains that to her. Yeah, that much.
It was
very believable for me. But it hits me at the first line. I don't know you, but I want to. Like, he wrote that song. Whoever, again, in the movie, because this song existed before this movie was written, but I saw some marketing material for this that was like a modern day musical, and I'm like, that is, I can't even say why that's so wrong. I don't even understand it.
I love musicals, and it feels really icky to me.
It's an album made movie, like it's hard to explain, because I don't think a lot of people do it like he does. Begin Again, I think, is another great example of this, a movie we did already. But in this moment, in this movie, he starts with that lyric, and I'm like, oh, he's written this song for her before he ever met her.
Right.
A lot of his other songs are about the girl he broke up with, the place where he came from. And I think one of hers is at least two. She does.
She says she straight up says the one song that he hears her play,
right,
that's hers. She says, I wrote this for my husband. He hated it.
And she does the lyrics for one of his that ends up being one of her songs. That
was also an excellent moment where she is throughout the film. We realize that she does not have any of the modern conveniences. Like this takes place now. It's a present day thing. back in 2007 or whenever it came out. But like they have a TV, but they don't have a phone, which is interesting because at one point she calls her mother and then the mother tells him at the end, we don't have a phone. You can't call us.
I didn't make that connection, but I'm going to forget about it immediately. So,
no, I think it's just, this is just maybe a weird thing, but I think at the moment, because it's when she's going to go to the party with him, I feel like at that moment, I have to wonder if she called her ex-husband instead of the mother.
There are a couple moments in the movie that are left open to interpretation. Maybe the most mysterious moment is when the scene starts with them walking up a hill towards a cliff overlooking the ocean, and he's like, "You're what?" She's like, "I'm married," and that's where he finds out that she's married. It didn't work out. She left. And then he's like, "How do you say, 'Do you love him?' in Czech?" And it's
right,
there's such good moments because
yes.
he slaughters the whole thing, and yet somehow the scene still works. And she says something back to him in Czech, but we never know what it is that she says.
Right, unless you're Czech, in which case you probably know.
Or you've looked it up on Wikipedia and you want me to ruin it for you.
Oh, please ruin it for me.
She says, "No, I love you."
my heart has broken more.
But in both while they were filming, Glenn Hansard himself, no idea what she actually said to him, and in the film we never find out. Also, so
yeah,
that's one moment of mystery. But yeah, there's a few in there where you wonder, and obviously the ending might be one of those moments too, which we will get to. I think if I've said everything, which is impossible, but. It's such an immediate movie. You're right. You mentioned the handhold stuff. Like, it's Carney, for all of his inexperience. I might just say it. I have no place saying it, but this is an early movie of his, and he is doing it on a budget. Like, there are some moments, especially in that moment where they are first singing "Falling Slowly" together. Like, it's right on the border of, man. I don't know if I'm reading into it, but it feels like he is so excited in the moment with what he's capturing. Like, he's like, "Holy crap, am I getting this?" That it's almost like he can't hold still, and he's got to go in on Hansard, and he's got to go back to
right.
Towards the end, it does back out to a tripod shot, and it is just completely still. Or it might be zooming in slowly or something like that.
But I think that's representative of where they've grown in their relationship too, right? Like throughout the first part of the movie, he's very shaky. He's very not sure of who he is or where he's going, what he's doing.
Yes, which is always going to be the thing with this movie. Anything I say comes after, but it works perfectly. Right. Like accidental or not. And the quote I wanted to tell you, because I feel like you've said it in more ways than once, this is one of those movies where they did film people falling in love in real life, whether accidentally or not.
Insanity.
Hansard has said, "I had been falling in love with her for a long time, but I kept telling myself she's just a kid." There is quite the age disparity there, obviously. And then he says, "There was definitely the feeling we were documenting something precious and private." So... only other touchstone I have for this is maybe Smokey and the Bandit, where Burt Reynolds and Sally Field are obviously falling in love.
Yeah,
during that
absolutely.
This is the Smokey and the Bandit of Irish fame that you've heard about.
You know what? Now you've solidified this movie in its perfect light and where it needs to be. I'm sure John Carney would love to hear. Hey, John, yeah, Ryan here, Book Club for Movies. Your movie once, the Smokey and the Bandit.
He would say thank you
of romance films.
He would say thank you.
He would.
Anybody would. It's so good. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time. If we're doing like romantic movies, this is probably not my number one, quite easily. I don't have a great breadth to pull from there, so take that for what you will, but it's up there. She is just such a brilliant little light bulb walking around in that entire movie. She is an absolute delight, joy.
Totally.
To every line she delivers, that relationship that they forge that obviously is real and just bursting, across the screen and out of my computer.
And there it is. Nailed it.
There are some follow-ups that might give you a little bit of what you want when it comes to happier endings. Oh, by the way, again, this is another not quote unquote happy ending. They have this beautiful, wonderful. We're going to spoil this movie. It doesn't matter at all. You can watch the whole thing numerous times. It won't matter ever. In fact, we'll have to ask you about the cry quotient after this little bit here. But there's this wonderful moment after they record the album. They have it in hand and they're parting ways. And he's like, yeah, why don't you come over? It'll be our last little fun time. And I'm going to London tomorrow. She's like, why would I come over? Just, hanky panky or something like that. And he laughs and he's like, come on, just come over. Come over later. You don't have to come over right now. She's like, okay. So she'll come over later. They part ways. She never shows up. He goes to look for her, can't find her. And the last scene of the movie is that he's bought a piano for her. She finds it. She's like, oh my gosh. She brings it upstairs. Her husband's there with, all of her neighbors and her mom. And she's playing that. I don't know if she's playing Falling Slowly. Probably not, actually.
She's playing the piano. Definitely playing something else because her fingers are going absolutely bananas in a way that not for that song.
And as Falling Slowly plays and the camera pulls out, and I am in absolute tears watching this on my computer in my office.
I love it. She turns to look out the window as he's walking down the end of the movie is her looking out the window, but the last scene we see with him is him basically walking down the jetway, I assume, to get on the plane to London because he's in the airport. And yeah, it's a really great moment.
How did you guys do? How did you guys? You watched it with Beth, right?
We did. We watched it.
How did you do? Because I watched it with my wife and daughter afterwards as well. Again, for a second time. I watched this twice leading up to this. Not a single tear from those robots.
Yeah, sorry. So, we are robots also. We didn't cry.
Gosh, what is wrong with everybody?
I don't know.
I am not compromised in any way.
I'm an uncompromised human. Your programming has finally shown off.
All right. Okay, fine.
I loved it. I loved it in every. It was. I guess at the end for me, it was. It was it's a beautiful ending. It's just a beautiful ending. It's not the happiest ending, but it's also not necessarily a sad ending. They both, if you are to believe what she says, that she is going to try and make it work and that she wants that to happen, then that's a happy ending for her, and he's happy. He's going to go back and see his, the ex or the person that he was separated from also. And he's going to try to make that work. Now, it becomes more sad when you start thinking about the fact that I feel like the ending of this movie is both of them giving, saying they're both too afraid to take that next step with each other.
Okay. Well, go listen to the Umbrellas of Cherbourg episode where we delve probably a little bit more deeply into this, and hopefully don't every single one of these podcasts. But yes, it can be bittersweet, but it's always so much more fulfilling to me to see stories like this where we learn about the other romances, the actual relationships that really made us who we are. Not that the person you're married to can also be that relationship, but man,
they never are. They're the worst.
There's always so much more to it
that they ruin.
Hansard has another quote pertaining to this. Out doing press for it, he has been quoted as saying, "Had the U.S. distributor changed the end and made us kiss, I wouldn't be interested in coming and promoting it at all." So they very much also happy with the ending of that film.
Yes, that is the right ending. Them not kissing would have been the bad ending.
It is. I'll give you some even better endings here. So shortly after this movie was made, they made a documentary. The Swell Season went on tour. Mm-hmm. Again, that's Hansard and Irglova, and had much more notoriety after the Oscar, after the movie. And the documentary, which set out to capture that experience, also kind of captured the end of the romance as well. They broke up in 2009. So if once kind of accidentally captured them falling in love, the documentary, it's also called The Swell Season, accidentally captured them.
That's what that is.
Falling out a little bit. Yeah. Supposedly it's very good. I haven't seen it. I will see it. They also reprised their roles in season 20, episode 14 of The Simpsons.
Of course
Another
they did.
happy ending. But then really, I have to share this. So I finished reading up and doing all my research for this thing a little bit early. So I was just kind of around watching videos.
And then you started crying again for no reason. I just burst into tears.
Very nearly. When I found Hansard's YouTube video. He's pretty active on YouTube. And if you look, he has a New Year's Eve video from 2020, I believe. All of us want to go back to 2020. But he's doing a stream, he's singing some songs, and literally out of nowhere, he's like, oh, it seems like it wasn't planned. He's like, oh my gosh, is this for real? And he hits the button, and Marquetta comes up on screen. And she does a song. She does a traditional Czech song, which is incredibly beautiful. And then he's like, let's try her song. Let's try her song. It's and this is not, again, this is all very off the cuff. It's so, again, natural. It's just, it's almost too natural because her kids are running around. His dog is barking. I'm not describing a movie here. I'm describing a YouTube video.
Yeah, that sounds
but
amazing.
But it's so kind and nice, and it's obvious they still love each other, like not in the,
they love each other like you and I love each other.
Yes,
biblically.
Exactly. And they do a little bit of Falling Slowly, and she has to go after that. But if you want a happy ending, go watch that. It really is so sweet to see them.
And it is. It's just, I love this movie. I truly love this movie.
Good. All right. Better than Begin Again, right? You would say.
Ooh, that's tough.
Really? That's a conversation for you?
I think. Well, okay. So I think. Geez, I'd have to go back and rewatch it because I was just talking to Beth about it, and I do want to rewatch it. Probably better than Begin Again, though. Yeah.
It does make you go back and kind of want to watch Begin Again, right?
Honestly, it's going to more, I think, come down. I mean, okay, number one, while I like Keira Knightley and the Hulk a great deal together, worked great. Sure. Yeah, that chemistry is nowhere near what we're seeing in this.
Very true. And where did you land on Sing Street? Actually, I forget because that was the movie.
I've still never seen it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, boy. It's got to see Sing Street.
It's in my queue. No,
I'm curious how you'll land on it because there's a few Cure songs in there and whatnot. So I don't. I
mean, I can deal with them. I just don't like them. I'm never going to seek the Cure out.
Okay, I still give once, twice stars.
Well, out of $9.99, which is how much the soundtrack was.
Oh, that's a steal. Go check that out. And yeah, honestly, go check out the self-titled Swell Season album. There's also songs in there that didn't make it to the... It's funny because for that album having come out first, you kind of expect it to be a little bit more like a busking adventure. It's not. It's incredibly well produced. It sounds glorious. It's very, very beautiful.
Definitely going to check it out.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. You can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com, Facebook and Twitter, obviously. I don't know why that's obvious that we would be there, but hopefully it gets less obvious as time goes on, even, I would say. Matt.
Me.
I was going to ask if you want to know what we're doing next week, but you don't.
It's not Titanic.
Remember how I said this could backfire on us? Do you remember that? I've said it every show.
Is it Titanic?
It's not Titanic. No. Oh my gosh. You would give your life for the beautifully nuanced portrayal of Billy Zane, and
he's a cool guy.
Leonardo DiCaprio's romance. No, it is not. So I went to my wife with this and I said, please choose something for the show. And her first go-to was the BBC miniseries Pride and Prejudice. And that was, yeah, I did actually have to put the brakes on something, right? I did have to.
All right, settle down there, Candy.
She chose The Notebook, man. He's gone into a coma.
All right. You know what? Nope. Yeah. Look.
I've never seen it. You've seen it and despise it. I know this much. But
okay, to be fair,
it's one of her favorites of all time. That is
to be fair, I have never seen it. Beth has seen it. Beth hates it and thinks it is a boring as hell movie.
Interesting.
So she's going to love being gone this week when I have to watch this.
Oh man, that kind of worked out. So wait, you're we're doing it.
Oh,
like
yeah.
We're not going to renege on the whole. We're not going to end. See, this was the other thing I thought might happen, especially since we're so late into August at this point already. I thought you would just be like, "That's it for August," and we stopped altogether.
We're going to stick to our guns on this, and we are going to ruin our day along with everybody else's. However, can I also try to suggest maybe we just throw something else in there as just for palate cleansing?
Oh, like just in case we don't spend a lot of time on the Notebook.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other maybe The Commitment.
It's okay. It's not going to be a free for all. I respect my wife's choice in movies.
I love your wife.
We very rarely see eye to eye, and that's not true. We see eye to eye. I just feel bad when we see eye to eye because obviously she's living in a man's movie world where it's Marvel or nothing. We will give The Notebook a fair shake. We just might be
I will give it
fun at the same time.
I will definitely give it a watch. Hell, I might like it. I don't know.
Boy, come on.
I have found that I like movies that I don't know. But hey, speaking of movies that I like, go watch The Commitments for sure. Seriously, I'm going to watch that probably this weekend.
Yeah, I knew the moment I put it into the air, it was going to come out from somewhere.
So a great movie to double feature with this, and it doesn't make sense on the outset, but when you watch them, I think one after the other, it will totally
double
work.
With The Commitments.
Yeah, double with the
Notebook?
Commitments. Double with the Commitments.
Okay. Just
Is a movie called Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains with Diane Lane, a very young Diane Lane. Now this movie, super interesting. Okay. This flick never got a proper theater release. So it was a home video, a cable TV thing that people found. And it's a great movie about a bunch of young girls turning into a punk band. There's a little bit of probably the Runaways story that's tossed in there to mix it up because this is a comedy drama type thing. But it's a very good movie. It's very funny. Diane Lane's great. The music is solid. It's good. Ladies and gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains.
I never knew that Mickey Steele, the bassist for the Bengals, actually did a short stint with the Runaways. Like that's where she came from.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, never knew that.
That makes sense.
Come back next week for all sorts of fun musical facts. Matt, I guess we could always do a rest of the show, but we've done plenty of time as is. You've done your time, so you are therefore released from any rest of the show obligations should you want to be.
I've got two things I want to talk about, actually.
All right, let's do it.
Sorry.
Hey, no,
I mean, you can. It's your show, man. You can tell me to stop.
Oh, I can leave? Okay,
yeah,
all right.
you know.
No, that's.
I'll just do this, and I'll text you when I'm finished.
I would never not want to hear any of your rest of the show picks. So give them to me. What do you got?
So, I don't really know. I don't even know where this comes from. There was just, you know how you hear a song and it just gets stuck in your head, and then
I do
5-6 years later, maybe you haven't heard the song in a long time. It's just right there. No reason, not just there.
Absolutely.
So there is this song. You've probably heard it. It's a song from the 60s. It's a song by a band called The Crystals. Came out in 1963. The song is called "Then He Kissed Me," and I'm sure if you heard it, you'd know it. When he walked up to me and
Poppy.
he asked me if I
Yep.
wanted to dance. Dee-dee. Yeah. So that song gets stuck in my head every now and again. Love the song. But why does that song get stuck in my head? It is because I remember one of my favorite movies as a child is called Adventures in Babysitting. And I think every boy between the ages of probably 8 and 16 that either
44
saw that movie or had to see that movie, the opening is that song. And it is Elizabeth Shue getting ready to go out on a date, and she's dressed up. She's singing the song, and I think every boy fell in love with her. Well, I think anybody who would fall in love with Elizabeth Shue fell in love with her and had a crush on her right then and there. I hadn't seen the movie in a really long time, and that song came up in a discussion, made me think of the movie, and I realized, you know what? I want to watch this, but I don't want to watch it on Disney Plus because Disney Plus has gone ahead and done the unthinkable and the wrong thing. They've censored the movie.
What is there? I mean, okay, I was about to say, what would they censor from that movie?
I will tell you what they censored.
I've gone back to a fair amount of 80s movies and been like, this was in there?
Yeah, so there's a major plot point throughout this movie that is actually censored out of the Disney movie, and I don't understand it. But there's a plot point where the characters find a Playboy whose centerfold looks just like her. You never see anything. They never show her body. They show the top part of the her head, so you see that yes, it's Elizabeth Shue. And she did do the photo shoot. She did a photo shoot not for Playboy, but for the movie, and she
for the fake. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And
did not remember this scene at all.
Number one, it's a constant thing because it shows up at the beginning where we're introduced to that, but then later on, it's actually a major plot point when they are on the run from the bad guys. One of the kids steals a Playboy, that they wrote a whole bunch of secret information on. So that's not in the Disney Plus version. And also, now, while some people may be real thrilled that F-bombs get removed, I know that you can be, that you like to...
Yeah, I removed all of them so my family could watch, or so my daughter could watch once. Yes.
So, were there? I guess there weren't that many in once.
No, they were pretty concentrated into a few scenes.
Great.
Mostly, yeah.
So this movie is one of those where I don't care about swearing. However, there are times when a swear word is so well earned that I think it's actually a travesty if you take that out of the movie, even for your daughter. It's like one of those things where, to me, and it's just to me. And this is
there was an F-bomb in
there's two
Adventures in Babysitting,
right?
Two?
And
really?
they're one right after each other, basically.
Huh.
But she earns that when she gets to say. That they're on a train. They're surrounded by two gangs that are about to fight. One of them's got a switchblade, and then the switchblade gets dropped. Elizabeth Shue picks it up, and she is holding these kids back with this. She says, "Don't." With the babysitter.
It does sound like a moment, yeah.
And it's you can't. You just can't. It's.
But they took that out too.
They took it out, yeah. It's edited out of the Disney Plus version.
Because I know at some point Disney Plus did you can watch two different versions of it.
So I haven't checked since they did that because my version of Disney Plus, I definitely have a lock on the account because I want to be able to watch Deadpool or whatever. I haven't watched those yet to see if they're uncut. Apparently they are.
That would be, I can't imagine, but I guess.
No, they are on there and they are fully uncut, and that's why they added the adult.
Yeah, exactly. It seems strange they would go back and do that to.
This edit had happened before they did that. I don't know if it's still there. I need to check it, but I have a copy of it that is unedited, and this goes just back to one of those things that I do see a lot, and I did not ever really. Man, it's not until very recently, and honestly, it's this Warner Brothers thing that I actually wouldn't mind talking a little bit about. That's very much so pushing me back towards I gotta start buying physical media again.
Boy, that sounds like a Patreon exclusive, if I ever heard of one.
Could be.
Oh, speaking of which, haven't mentioned Patreon. We exist on Patreon. Please help us out.
Yeah, go there. So Adventures in Babysitting, great. Go check that movie. Also, if for nothing else, than to see a very, very young Vincent D'Onofrio potentially as Thor. Because the little girl gets confused and thinks he's Thor.
In Adventures in Babysitting? My gosh, have I ever seen that movie? Literally everything you mentioned to me today, I'm like, that was in the movie?
I love that movie. I love that movie. I still love that movie. That movie, I watched it, and outside of, again, it's that there's a couple things here and there where just as we've gotten older, and as time has gone on, certain phrases and things that you'd bandy about in the 80s just don't land anymore.
Yes. So it's got some homophobia in it, you're saying.
Yeah. But very little. And it's
There's no excuse for it, but et cetera, et cetera. Yes. Sure.
Yeah. I still love that movie. I think it's great. The other movie that I wanted to talk about, because I hadn't seen it in so long, again, this is another one. Beth and I started rewatching the TV show, just to putting it on in the background, was MASH.
Yes.
So I grew up watching MASH. The movie was something that was pretty frequently watched by my dad. He really liked it. I fell in love with it because of that. And also the stage production. I desperately wanted to be in the stage production, and I never made it, never got to it.
I did not know that had a stage production.
I very much so. I desperately wanted to play Trapper John.
You're like, guys, suicide is painless. Look at me. Come on.
Look at me. It was my wife and I's wedding song. And that's true. It was our wedding song.
I missed the wedding of the decade.
Yeah, it was our wedding song. Our guitar player. We just had a solo guitar player, amazing guitar player. He's like, okay, so what do you guys want to do for like your thing? And we're like, oh, for like the actual like the procession for the wedding song, and then when we get all that, suicide is painless. And he goes, from MASH. And we go, nice. Yeah, and he goes, all right, weird, but sure. And he killed it. Like the way he played it. He played all this finger stop.
It was great. Professional, both?
No. This was a professional guitar player that we reached out to.
Excellent.
When we were, yeah.
Again, wish I could have been there.
But the movie, if you have never seen the movie,
haven't.
It is number one, Robert Altman, easily one of his best. Just this movie is perfect in every way. It's very funny. It's got the commentary even now is still very biting and very, very correct. There is no question that the movie is an anti-war film. Like right. Zero question there. And it's great, man. Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould. Unbelievable. Throw Tom Skerritt in there. Fantastic. Then you've got, and then, why not have Robert Duvall? Yeah. Amazing. This movie, the cast is crazy. Sally Kellerman is an all-timer as Hot Lips. And boy, oh boy, if you don't watch anything from this movie, but one sequence, make it the football sequence at the end of the movie. It is maybe one of the funniest things ever. It holds up for what it is. Again, it's got some homophobia in it. It's definitely got some. Oh yeah.
Seemed like that would have been a little bit more sensitive to it. Obviously, is there some context to it, or is it again just thrown off unthinkingly?
No, the context comes from the character being a Southern, like kind of a redneck, and he's not even saying it like. Again, there's no good way of saying it, but he's not saying
he's saying it like that. Somebody from that era or that upbringing would say it.
Appropriate to the time.
Gotcha,
yes, it wasn't like it's not meant as in the context. It's not.
The movie is not saying there is something wrong. Yes. The movie itself is not making a statement against. Yeah, I gotcha.
Not even a little bit. No.
Yeah, so did the movie, I don't know why we need to talk about it. Did the movie come out before the show or after the show?
Yes.
Okay, before the show. Yeah, and then the show.
The movie was was the inspiration for the show.
Thought, yeah.
The show, because in the movie, the characters do, Hawkeye goes home at the end. Trapper John ends up somewhere else, and the movie takes place over a relatively short amount of time. Whereas the show took place over pretty much, I feel like, the course of the Korean War. Like, I mean, it's, 100, 200 episodes or something like that. Like, it's a lot.
Have you watched the entire show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, never have.
It's good. It's different because it is the show nailed the, like when you think of the word dramedy, MASH is the first one.
It is
period.
Definitely the first one I think of
That's it. It nails that. And the movie does too. The movie does play on certain things that are, aspects of army life that we're told are, you know, what they are. And so when the women are involved, yeah, there's some, you know, there's some misogyny here and there, a little bit depending on who you were in the army and what your status was or what have you. So the movie plays with that stuff. It plays with the characters having to deal with following the rules as they are laid out while we're in the middle of a war and we are medical doctors, you know, and then having to skirt those lines because they want to save people regardless of who they are,
Gotcha.
you know? So great movie though. Really funny. You will laugh. One of the best parts of the film is how aware the film is of itself. So because they're in a small camp, there's a loudspeaker, and the loudspeaker does some pretty like ingenious. The tone never changes.
I think I remember that from the show too. The loudspeaker does some heavy lifting. Yeah.
Yeah. It basically does some narration, you know, and it tells you like the end of the movie. It runs through the cast list for you, and it says you've watched MASH, directed by Rob, but it stays in the exact cadence and tone throughout the whole movie. So it's a great thing that Altman put together, you know.
Excellent. Bringing the news on that movie MASH to you. I'm gonna also say some movies. What do you think?
Okay, I like it. Do it. Say them.
I was trying to decide if I would just shut up, but I think I'm going to keep talking. We watched Guarding Tess. Never seen it.
Nicolas Cage and Shirley MacLaine.
Yes. So something we've been doing lately is we've had the board game Seen It for some time. You remember that?
Love that game. Nobody ever wanted to play with me because I saw everything.
Also,
and nobody did.
I don't. That's not
you
true.
and I would probably have fun playing.
We probably would. Also, it's not completely like. Film buffs can still get a raw deal sometimes. Like my wife has won a few games. I think my daughter even won a game also, which just makes me feel good. I'm a good dad. But one of the clips they showed was from Guarding Tess, and we're like, anybody here seen that before? And we're all like, nope, never seen it. So watched it. It's a toned down Nicolas Cage movie, maybe for most of it. I mean,
he gets a moment or two. I think
he does towards the end when he kind of flips out and shoots a guy in the toe, which picture a movie where he is fairly reserved throughout and then shoots a guy in the toe. It's almost even better. But it's also not that type of movie. It's just not a crazy Nick Cage movie. But it is a generous Nick Cage movie. I think it's easy to forget that because it's Nick Cage and Shirley MacLaine. So it's easy to forget that when Nick Cage, he's such a film nerd. It's easy to see when he gets in the room with somebody like Shirley MacLaine. He's actually also very good at just stepping back, and he's like a perfect thing to bounce lines off of. Like there's plenty of scenes in there where Shirley MacLaine gets to shine, and he's just there to make her shine even more, and it's perfect. He gets his own version of that, and Shirley MacLaine does the same thing. But
love it. I haven't seen that one in a long time.
It's really, really fun. It's also what a movie from a completely bygone era of film, you know, like think about, I feel like The American President is probably the closest analog, but also Dave.
Annette Bening and Michael Douglas.
Yes, correct.
Dave is one of my all-time favorite president.
Kevin Kline, man, maybe, yeah. And if
and
anything,
Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, also. If anything, it's maybe not exactly what I'm talking about
Frank
here.
Langella.
Think about a movie coming out now that tells the story about any politician, let alone the president, that's basically just like, hey, they're people too, man. You know, like I don't think that movie exists anymore, and probably shouldn't for so many other reasons. But I'm glad this one does. I'm glad Guarding Tess does. It's a pretty fun. It's not like the best Nicolas Cage. It's not even like a fantastic, amazing movie.
No,
it's just good. It's really good. It's fun.
I remember it being solid though, just being a totally, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
There was another movie, totally not that one, called The Contender that came out, I feel like right around the same time.
With
it's got Jeff Bridges and Joan Allen.
Joan Allen, thank you.
And that movie now.
That's like a real movie. Not that this isn't a real movie, but yeah, like I said, that's like, yeah.
That's a movie though, but that now, if you watch that movie today, it will still infuriate you for the same
Sure.
reasons, because we're literally seeing exactly what's going on with our politics
Sure.
now as what happens in that movie. That movie, by the way, The Contender, super good. Also, Gary Oldman
Oh man,
and Jeff Bridges.
sounds
Christian Slater.
it's great. Haven't seen it. It's great. The other movie I watched was The Contractor. It's newer.
Oh, you finally watched that, huh?
Mhm.
I was looking at that just the other day.
You know,
how did you like it?
Check it out. Like it's not what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting more of a B movie, like fun little thriller. It's
Yeah.
instead definitely trying to say something about modern day veterans and what they've had to deal with, and it's not all about that. Like, it's still concerned about telling an interesting story about Chris Pine's character that gets caught up in some paramilitary stuff, some private contracting in Kiefer Sutherland's company, for of all things,
Jack Bauer Inc.
Yep. And the story itself is enough, I think, to get through. It's not bombastic. It really isn't that B movie thriller. Like, it doesn't throw any cheap punches. It's pretty serious and, and pretty reasoned.
Bummer in that respect.
Yeah, and it's good. It's not like an A movie in the way that, man,
it's not Universal Soldier.
No, it is not an A movie in the way that Universal Soldier is an A movie. But it's a good story, and sure, maybe, but probably makes you think about some things. It's not like hoorah military, it's not like super red state about the whole thing or anything. It's pretty good.
So it's not Top Gun Maverick.
It's not Top Gun Maverick in a lot of
which I do finally have ready queued up, and I will watch.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Talk about that.
No, it won't. I don't like Miles Teller.
Oh, is that where that tweet came from?
No, that tweet actually came from him being cast in a movie that's being directed by Scott Derrickson, and that bums me out.
Oh, yeah, now what are you going to do?
I mean, whatever.
I'll tell you what.
Watch.
You go watch Whiplash, because sure, I saw Fantastic Four probably before I saw Whiplash. I think that might have been my first experience with Miles Teller. And just generally speaking, go to YouTube. Don't go to a movie. Yeah, sure.
I just don't like him as an actor either. He's one of those guys that has a face that I want to smash.
Right. but that's what I'm saying. You go watch Whiplash, and I kind of got to
root for J.K. Simmons.
You kind of always do no matter what. But still, you kind of, I can't fault him. Like, I can't just not want to see him. Okay, that's not true. I won't go to a movie for him, but certainly. And Top Gun Maverick, I said this to you when I talked about it. I think you'll be okay. Everybody revolves around Tom Cruise, including Miles Teller. Like, he gets some screen time, but it's only in the service of the cruise,
Only in the service.
But man, Whiplash is enough to get me through any Miles Teller movie for the rest of time, I think is what I'm saying.
Okay, real quick. I got to tell you about two movies that you need to check out.
Okay.
You need to check these out. One of them, you're going to hear this plot and you're going to be like, yeah, okay. So this movie just came out. It's barely an hour and 20 minutes. Okay. It's on Shudder. It's called Glorious. It stars J.K. Simmons, and Ryan Quanten or something. I don't know that dude. J.K. Simmons is the only part of this matters. 98% of this movie takes place in a rest stop bathroom where the main character is talking to J.K. Simmons in the other stall, trying to stop a Lovecraftian horror from taking over the world.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that also, though, speaking of, if you want some real good action, you're looking like you want to see somebody fight, and you want to see some fighting and punching, you need to in particular check out The Gangster, The Cop, and The Devil.
I haven't heard of either of those.
Well, you know who Ma Dong-seok is?
Oh, I have, sure. Mr. Heavy Punches, thick dude, just steamrolling his way through the world.
So watch this movie, because they're remaking it. His production company is remaking it. He is starring in the remake.
One of those. Okay.
It's an American, yeah. Watch the Korean thing. They're the Korean version.
I'll just watch
That
the
movie-
Korean. Yeah, I'm fine with whatever. I might
It's-
watch the remake too, but on some level, I'm annoyed when that happens because they're like, okay, we're remaking it with just about everything except for a few things for you American idiots. But and
You're gonna
it's
like
not that I'm insulted; it's that I'm sad because
I'm an American idiot. I am a Green Day. But you in particular,
that's where that's from.
You'll love this movie. You're going to be all in on that.
So you've
one.
already seen it and recommend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts a little slow and then it's just punching everything. And the thing is, the way that guy punches, man, it looks like he is going to kill a human being. He's going to hit them once. Their head is going to just cave in and maybe fly off. Like it's just going to be,
it's never out of the question. Yeah. Excellent. Look at all of the movies you have to choose from now after listening to this episode of Book Club for Movies. What'd you say?
I said I like movies. Come back next week for The Notebook.
Yes. Come back next week. You can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If
Facebook,
we get
Twitter,
if we get a $10 Patreon donation, we will not release our Notebook episode.
if you want to know this, we got to start doing this for the next $10 patron we get. You too can make our episode of The Notebook patron only. You can save how many souls by subscribing to our Patreon and forcing us to put our episode behind a paywall.
You could be the Sully Sullenberger of podcasts. Saving all of those souls.
That'll be next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
So, if you ever want something and you call, then I'll call.